Hey folks, Jack here. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to episode number 2 on my new YouTube channel. This is still pretty new and exciting to me. I still haven't quite figured out exactly what I want to do with these videos. If you've seen any of the previous 2 videos that I've done so far, I've kind of outlined roughly what I want to do, which is to treat this channel now as sort of a haven for all things guitar and music. So I'm just going to kind of jump about from topic to topic, and hopefully you'll be happy to follow me on this new little interesting venture I'm going to make. So, episode 2, I want to make this a little bit shorter than the previous videos I've done. I want to address a couple of different things in this video. One thing I'm going to do a little later on is I'm going to unveil the mystery amp that I've talked about in my previous YouTube video and also on a couple of social media posts recently. A few people have been asking me about what that amplifier was. I'm going to tell you what it is today. I'm actually playing through it right now with my Sir Classic Pro HSS as well. So I thought I'd have a little play, and rather than just make this about the gear, though, rather than just talk about the amp and nothing else, I want to first talk a little bit about playing, because I've had loads of questions which I really appreciate, as I said in my previous video, and a lot of them are about playing, which is kind of the whole point of this channel. I want to make it more of an interactive kind of thing where you can ask me questions and I can retaliate with stuff, because there's so many players out there that I'm really grateful of watching these videos that I'm doing, commenting on my posts, who are just massively brilliant guitar players themselves, and musicians of all sorts, you know, on all sorts of instruments. So I definitely want to establish a bit of a back and forth. But I want to address something that I haven't really talked about before, and it's something that is very influential to me, and I realise I do it a lot in my playing, in my lead playing, which you'll have heard a little bit of there in that little intro. I'm going to do a little bit more and talk about the thing I want to talk about. So I want to kind of address this because I was watching today, in fact, I've only just got around to watching it. My friend Greg Koch has done some wonderful videos with Wildwood Guitars where he was talking to Mr. Steve Lukather, who, for anyone who knows me, will know that Steve Lukather is one of my absolute favourite guitar players. His lead playing, I think, is untouchable in that kind of rock meets fusion-y jazz vein. He's not really a jazz guy, and the video series was really interesting, really insightful, and it kind of made me just think, yeah, I love Steve Lukather. And there's certain things that I do in my own playing that really echo some of the stuff that I've learned from him. Most notably, what I want to talk about today is the use of the 6th in lead lines, which isn't something that's very often, you don't pay that much attention to usually. I'm not a theory guy, I don't really know a lot of the theoretical terms, or whether in fact a 6th is completely the wrong term for what I'm personally talking about here. But let me give you an example. Let's take what I was just playing in the key of E. I had that little groove going. So I've got a clean sound here. I'm going to switch onto a lead sound when I show you what I'm going to play. Okay, so if I'm going to take that kind of a groove, it's very... kind of pentatonic. You'd usually, I guess you would usually go to something like, yeah, fairly standard pentatonic stuff. What Lukather does a lot, and it's something that I picked up on quite early on when I was listening to him really intensely, is his use of the 6th, which is to say stuff like this. You know, you can kind of imply the 4th chord with the use of the 6th, which in this case is the C sharp. So if you put that to use with some higher gain tones like Lukather would do, you really get this interesting merge between the typical bluesy rock thing, which is, as I say, quite pentatonic, and then you add in these jazzy kind of fusion-y elements with that 6th. At least that's the way I hear it. And there's one lick I always loved from him. I remember it was just a throwaway lick he did in a Bogner Amps overview video for the Ecstasy, which was the amp he was playing at the time. He just threw this lick away, and it was something like... And it's that little descending thing. And I loved that. I thought that was such a cool sounding lick. You got the interesting mix with the major third in there as well. And So licks like that really stood out to me. They're not particularly showy, they're not particularly fast and technical, but they've got this massive kind of swagger to them, and a lot of that is to do with the sixth. I like the way that it implies the fourth chord in a typical bluesy kind of scale. So once again, if I just go back to that little sequence, kind of a way to imply the over the fourth chord. I'm really making this basic because I don't really know how I'm going to kind of express my vague understanding of theory in video form just yet, because I'm brand new to kind of talking about techniques, but a lot of people are asking about it, and I thought the sixth is something I think that guitar players should maybe just be a little bit more aware of if you want some cool kind of bluesy rock edge to your lead playing, rather than just sticking with pentatonics. It's always cool to just veer out to those more jazzy kind of a note. The sixth is the one for me that I reach out to the most. And something that Lukather does a lot is borrows something from Jeff Beck, I think, which is the bends with the sixth. So it's kind of implied up to the seventh. And that's just a sound, again, I've always absolutely loved ever since I first heard him doing it, really, but I am a huge Beck fan as well, and that's definitely an integral part of Beck's playing too. So if you haven't thought about that before, that's a really, really basic idea I'm putting out there today, but when I thought about what I wanted to talk about in this video, listening to some videos with Steve Lukather talking today really just made me focus a little bit on some cool elements that you can spice up your lead playing with, and that's something that melodically I think will make your playing maybe stand out a little bit from a typical bluesy rock kind of pentatonic thing. Just think about those harmonic kind of oddities that you could throw in with some different chords, and it doesn't always have to be a sixth. A second is just as important as well, or a ninth, I guess, if you're up the octave. Again, I'm just babbling technical talk here, but as an example, let's go back to that chord sequence. That's kind of throwing a couple of different things in there. Again, largely veering around the sixth, and then veering towards the second as well when you go back to the root. That's enough babble for today anyway. I'm not going to get too technical in these videos because, truth be told, I don't know what I'm talking about, as you probably have been able to tell so far, but I'm going to try my best to convey some of my ideas that I play with, and certainly get influence from other players with. That's a big one, so I just wanted to put that out there first of all. Right, now what I'm going to do is do a quick cut. I'm going to show you the mystery amp, I'm going to unveil it, and then I'm going to come back and play a little bit more and talk about why I love it so much. Okay, it's time. I'm going to unveil the mystery amp that I've been talking about in my last video and on Instagram recently. A few of you guys had some good guesses in the kind of Marshall amp vein, but actually, I hate to tell you, you're pretty wrong. So I'm going to move away from the cabinet, and I'm actually going to move down to the floor. There it is. A Mesa Boogie Fillmore 50. Let me just get a better shot of this. So this is an amp that I've wanted for a long time, and some good friends at Mesa Boogie have finally sorted me out with this amazing custom Fawn Tolex edition of the Fillmore 50. It's a little 1x12 powerhouse. It's got 6 L6s in it. It's very much an American voiced amp, but it's incredibly versatile. I wouldn't be doing it justice if I really tried to delve into all the features in a short video here today, so I'm going to do that in the future, mic it up properly and all that, but that's the amp. So might surprise a few of you. I really love it, and you're going to hear a lot more of it in the future, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so now that you've seen what the mystery amp is, I'm sure you might be a little bit taken aback. Hopefully it might have maybe surprised a few people. I had a lot of guesses for Marshall style amps, and to be honest, that's always what I've tended to stick with. As you can see by the other amps that I've got in the rack, they tend to be Brit style amplifiers. That's the sound that I've always loved, always veered towards, and so it's very comfortable under my fingers, that Brit amp kind of a sound. This amp though, I really wanted something that was 6L6 driven, so it's a little bit more of that American voicing, and if I turn off the overdrive pedal that I had on and just play with the clean channel of the amp, with that reverb as well. That's a sound I've never had before. So I'm really excited to get to grips with this amp. I think I'm going to be using it a lot, just for that clean thing to build pedals on top of. But it's got second channel as well. I'm going to talk more in another video, I think, about this amp. I'm going to do more of a proper review, mic it up, or use the Waza tube amp expander here so you can hear it properly. But I'm just giving a brief overview for you today. The second channel I've got set up for a crunchy sound, so it turns it into a totally different kind of an amplifier. It's no longer just a stock Fendery clean thing. Here's the second channel, the way I've got it set up right now. Okay, and that's a totally different sound to what I had before. It's totally different to what any of these other amps do as well. There's certainly a unique character that I've become more aware of in more recent years with Boogie amplifiers. Throughout the 80s, a lot of my favourite guitar players I've since realised were using small Boogie amps or modified Fenders, which have a similar kind of character, which is a different mid-range to anything else. This is a 1x12 combo. I'm running it at half power today, so it's running at 25 watts. Not a huge amount of gain, but it's got such a unique mid-range, and it's really accentuated by, if I put an overdrive pedal on top of it, you hear the mid-range just speaks in a certain way, and that's why so many of those great, iconic 70s and 80s leads were created, I think, is largely due to amps like this. Let me give you an example. Trying to get that sixth in there again, just to make the point that I was making earlier. That's such a unique tone, and like I said, I'm going to come back to talking about this amp in later videos. Today I just wanted to unveil it to you, give a couple of my quick thoughts as to why I think it's such a good amp, why I like it so much. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this little ramble for episode 2. Thank you once again for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have and you'd like to see more stuff from me in the future, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. As always, I appreciate all the support I've had, not just on YouTube, but on Instagram and Facebook. If you haven't joined me there, you can join me there at Jack Griffiths Music on both of those platforms. So that's it for today. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.